Hey, welcome to another episode of Software Without Borders. I'm your host, Andy Hilliers, CEO of Accelerants.
And I'm Olivier Pouland, Managing Director of Software Strategies at Accelerants. Welcome, Andrew Hosman, a product leader with extensive experience in building cross-functional teams and driving product innovation. I love product, by the way, and product innovation in general. So, welcome.
Yeah, I love the interaction between product and technology. It's really fascinating. Andrew, you have a proven track record of developing and launching successful SaaS products across various industries, including insurance, risk management, and IoT. You're currently vice president and head of product at EigenRisk. Hey, Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Olivier. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time out. And I know we had a couple of schedule changes, but persistence wins in the end, and we're here together. So let's kick it off. I always like to start these conversations with a little bit of background building. You've had a dynamic career. We've known each other for 6 or 7 years, maybe even longer. You've led product initiatives and driving growth in various sectors. What was the genesis? Give us some background as far as what caught the flame to draw you to product management, and sort of what early experiences shaped your approach and just to be where you are today.
That's a great question. I think if you look back on what I went to college and originally grad school for and what I moved into over my career, I think it was a natural progression, honestly. I originally was intending to be a college professor way back when, and was focused on paleoclimate, which is study of ancient climate, essentially, using the rock record and other evidence to figure out where and what things might have been like during the times that the rocks were formed. But as fate would have it, ended up taking a leave of absence from my master's program and started a 17-year career at Marsh & McLennan, a large insurance brokerage. Not typically thought of insurance brokerages, that is, as technology hubs, but I was in their software and technology division. And initially, after a little while, got moved into their software development group. So I was a developer building custom solutions because we thought that was the best answer back then for our customers. We've got this product, but we really need to customize it to fit your needs rather than configure it.
What year was that, more or less?
This is probably 2000, 2001, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
So at the time, I was the developer, and we were getting specifications, waterfall style, that were like this thick for really simple problems. And sometimes, you know how it is, the customer says one thing, they really meant something else, and you have to kind of be there in that communication. Otherwise, you're getting second or third hand information, and it's usually not right. So my first few plugins I wrote, granted, I was still learning development at the time. That could have just been me, but we missed the mark. So after 3 or 4 of those, I was like, you know what? Can I talk to the customer too? Be a part of these conversations. And then after that, started to get more of the idea of what the customer was really looking for, what their pain was, what their need was, and was then able to write something that was more what they wanted. And delivery quality went up, delivery speed went up, and overall satisfaction went up as part of that process. So eventually, I started doing a lot of that on my own as a developer, listening into the customers, and then taking those requirements and turning those into solutions. And as I advanced in my career, moved more into the development leadership role where I was teaching the other developers how to critically just talk with customers and how to think like a customer, put yourself in that situation.
That is actually a unique blend. Coming up through the development ranks and becoming product management. You don't see that all too often, or you don't see it often enough, certainly. I mean, you must have a real empathy for both the customer's problem and how to translate that and communicate and galvanize the development community.
It's definitely not something everyone can do from a development perspective. But new tools and new techniques with AI and other opportunities are coming out. A lot of companies are trying to cut product out completely right now and use AI tools as much as possible to gather requirements and try to shorten that cycle, in my opinion, with mixed success. But I think we'll talk a little bit later on around AI tools and how that's coming into the industry. But overall, the biggest thing from a product perspective is keep it an open channel with the customer as much as you can, and early and often. It's just like agile in general. Fail early and often. Show the customer the progress. Let them weigh in. Make sure you're going down the right path. Even if you think you understand what they want, you may not actually understand. They may not know how to communicate it, but something tangible that you can play with and see goes a long way.
Andrew, you just mentioned AI, and I need to, I'd love to talk about this. Is how do you foresee AI to help product managers in general?
Just earlier today, I had to pull a list of for what my company does currently is we are in the nat cat space, so analyzing natural catastrophe risks against exposures in books of business for insurers and reinsurers. And we're a smaller company, so I kind of have my hands in a couple of different teams, a couple of different groups. So I was pulling a list of county codes called FIPS codes to try to build a solution to help our customers more accurately map their county data into our product. And I had to go through and try to scrape this up a couple different websites and build an Excel sheet that had this. So I just used an AI tool that'll go nameless for now to just help me put together that spreadsheet so I didn't have to sit there and spend 30, 40 minutes doing it. So for that task, it worked really well. But for me, it's an efficiency tool during the day. If I need quick information, if I need to fix the wording of something because I might be rushing and I may have looked at it for too long and need to change the tone or get it to where I need it to be or make sure it's thorough enough, then I find AI is a great tool. I think the challenge becomes when you try to let it do all the thinking for you. And I think that's not right where we're at the moment. Maybe in the future we'll get there, but that scares me to think about that as well, because where's that coming from? So it's a little bit more of an efficiency tool, help take care of the grunt work that would have been time consuming before, give you more time to think and provide the added value as a product leader that you can bring in.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, by the way, because the problem is that people have a perception that AI can do everything. And I keep saying we need to use our own HI, human intelligence, supplemented by HI. Works super well. It's very, very efficient. You can do all this manual work or some research that would take hours now can take minutes, right? So that works very, very well. But on the creativity side, do you feel that AI could help you being more creative, or how does that work, you feel?
I don't think it's quite there yet, at least in my opinion, from a creativity standpoint.
So I'm not implying that AI would create something, would help you be more creative than you are today.
By freeing me up to do less of the task-based work, yes, I can spend more time on the thought-based work, which is how the customer might need this, the experience they might have, and different angles we might want to take for go-to-market or presenting this information to a customer.
Absolutely, I think that's a great tool for that.
Yeah, I use AI every day in virtually everything I do. Not only from an efficiency standpoint, but also from a gaining different perspectives, posing different personas to the person, so I don't see things just under my own lens, and I bring up some things that I might be missing simply because I have a limitation on my knowledge and also have a limitation on my time. So by asking AI to assume different personas, either personas that I'm interacting with or personas that might be interacting with the people I'm interacting with, it gives me different perspectives, and it makes me think outside of my own hardwired perceptions and impressions and knowledge. So I do that all the time because I guess I learned early, when you make enough mistakes, as we all do in our career, you're fallible, and there's always I surround myself with smarter people, and AI is just another a smarter person with a different perspective. And I may call you Andrew or you Olivier, and I may call on AI and just see what everyone brings to the table, and then I focus more on discernment instead of creation.
Yeah, that's the HI piece, I think, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah. So Andrew, I've got something else for you on the AI side, and then we can maybe move on to something else. But to me, there are two aspects of it. One, use Gen AI to help with, those tasks that you mentioned, and etc. But there's also using AI and not just necessarily Gen AI, but machine learning, for instance. I know you're big into analytics and data science. I'm a big math as well. I love math. And I've done quite a bit of analytics and data science in the past for the aviation industry. So I'm just curious to know how you use this part of AI to enhance existing products or propose new products, for instance.
We're very early on with that here at EigenRisk, and it's exciting. There's some things we're working on that I can't go into full detail on, obviously, here. But for me, it's going to be a lot of fun to bring forward for our customers some of the new tools that AI can bring. I mean, a lot of companies are starting to just get to the point now where they're bringing in more of the natural language processing to help with analytics, help get to answers, help customers ask questions in more natural language rather than try to get it in via the form of a query string or a collection of filters. So to be able to put tools like that into our product will significantly help our user base, many of whom may not be the most technical users in the planet, but the information that they're sitting on, the treasure trove of data they can get out of their exposures and out of the models that we can help provide to them is phenomenal. And there's so much insight that can be gained. So for me, being able to think about it in terms of how do we simplify that journey for our customers, how do we help them get to the answers they need quickly is fantastic. The challenge, of course, is then training those models to be able to do the right things. It almost reminds me way back when Gmail was first introduced and they started using the predictive text. You would get some very funny answers for trying to getting the type ahead.
Yeah.
I'm a little afraid as we go forward here at the first couple of versions or first couple of months of any product we put out there. You know, what's the AI engine going to do? Are people going to lose faith in it? Are they going to just see it as a toy rather than the value it can bring? So I think there's a lot of care that has to go into making sure you're getting those products to that point of providing at least confident answers a majority of the time.
Yeah.
And they'll just get better from there as you give them more prompts and give them more data to analyze.
Yeah, I think you're making a very good point. I personally am always concerned about the fact that Gen AI is non-deterministic. So all the software you get out there, is based on rules that you program and, that you specify and program. It's deterministic. Typically, you test it, from the input what output you get. Mm-hmm. Here with Gen AI, you can get anything. So you've got to be careful about that and put some boundaries and filters, obviously.
Yeah, and some discernment, and ultimately you're accountable. But people make mistakes. But I also think some of the benefits that people will see will become increasingly consistent, and those mistakes will become increasingly less over time. And I think the benefits will be appreciated and undeniable, and gain the following that you're looking for ultimately over time. Obviously you don't want to erode trust too much too early with too many mistakes, but I think it's just an evolution that we're going to go through, and you're going to have a segment of the population that are naysayers and are just really resistant to change. But this is only going one direction as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think that's really the steps that we're looking at as well from a product perspective, and how I look at it as a product manager. What are the quick wins you can give now that are a little bit easier to control, a little bit easier for AI to digest? Things like searching a help file or going through and finding information about how to use the system. And then generally you'll graduate up from there to more of those, I guess, less deterministic use cases where it can go any which way. Run the analysis for me that shows X, Y, and Z. You don't know what you're going to get. But of course, the more turns at bat it gets, the more correct the results will be over time. So
yeah, I'm gonna actually layer on that prior discussion here, because like with AI, you have the ability, or you have been recognized as having the ability of shifting a team's focus towards next gen SaaS products, or towards a new reality. So what do you do to foster a culture of innovation, and how do you drive or influence teams to embrace new technologies?
That's a great question. So trying to generalize what I've done at a couple other companies in my past. First thing is getting the engineers and the engineering leaders into a room and helping to explain what it is we're trying to do. Getting everybody on the same page. This shouldn't be scary. We're looking to pivot from one perspective to another. It might be some new technologies and opportunities to play with new technologies, which most engineers find awesome because it makes them feel better about their careers. Some people are scared. Some people don't like change, obviously, and you figure out how to manage that. But for most people, this is a wonderful opportunity to learn new skills and adapt and try something new. So what we do is, what I've done is I've tried to get people on the same page with the vision of where we want to go, what that long-term and medium-term future look like. And in the short term, how are we going to get there? Are we going to do a hackathon maybe? Get people involved in trying to solve problems using some of these new tools? Or identifying opportunity areas within the product or adjacent areas to help encourage some innovation and growth and build some teamwork with some of these new tools and methodologies? Or are we going to just go through and really think about how we're going to take a portion of the product and reimagine it over time? How do we do we need to change the platform? And if so, how do we do that? But then from a user experience standpoint, this is a great opportunity if we've got a solid platform to potentially provide different paths for these users to based on their persona or their business needs to get from point A to point B. Simplify for one persona, give something a little bit more complex, more interactive for another persona, but ultimately leverage the platform to get there the whole way.
Talking about persona, of course, the customer journey is important. I mean, it's critical, in fact, to your success, to product success. How do you prioritize the customer's needs and ensure that you derive maximum value from the product?
I think it comes down to thinking about two things when you're a product manager. What is it that we are trying to do as a company? What product or what service are we trying to provide? What value are we providing? And then who are we selling to? Who are the users who are going to consume that, and what do they need? And do they overlap fully, or are there gaps? And then you need to decide, are those gaps opportunities, or are those gaps potentially partnerships or other relationships you want to consider as part of your product? Ultimately, when you're thinking about how to go to market or what to build, it's where do we fit, where do we play? At the stage we are in our growth or in our current maturity, it might be we only have this little area to play in where the market might need this or for a solution. So can we bolt on? Do we really hyper-focus and revolutionize that niche, find a way to make that better? But it's finding those opportunities related to what that customer needs ultimately and that value you can deliver for where you're at right now as a company is how I would look at it first. And then what's that long-term plan? Do we want to grow into being able to solve all the problems? Do we want to find the right partners to be able to close out some of those challenges? Or, again, like I said, are we going to be hyper-focused in certain areas? So for me, that's where that genesis begins. And then it's about going out and talking to the customers, talking to these people who will be using the system, observing them, watching what they do, figuring out where you can add additional value, whether they're using your product or somebody else's, or no product whatsoever, and find those opportunities to help solve those problems or make them more efficient.
Yeah, one big problem that I found in product management is the definition of the roadmap and how long that roadmap should be, right? Are we talking about 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years? I mean, there's no way we would. It's been a long time since I've seen a 2-year roadmap, quite frankly. So, what is your take on the roadmap?
So one of the last companies I worked at, our CEO told me, I don't want to see a 1-year roadmap because if you plan it now, it's going to be obsolete in a year. And then, we're trying to figure out where we want to be when we grow up right now as a company to a degree. So, a longer term roadmap might give our customers more confidence in that case that we're thinking longer term. So it's the traditional product management answer of it depends in this case. But all joking aside, it's really, to your point, how agile, how nimble, how fast can you deliver? Now, next, later might make more sense for some companies. Having a bit of a box timeline with the ability to use that as a visual to show your customers, say, hey, this is what we're thinking. And then get the feedback. Well, I really don't need that anytime in the next year, or I really need that in the next 3 to 6 months, not 9 months out. those can help drive the right conversations as well. So roadmaps to me are more of a conversation tool than they are a contract, if that makes sense.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. That's the way I see it as well. So almost like a living being, if you will. So you have short term, mid term, longer term. You still need some kind of a vision within the 9, 12 months because it gives some confidence to your customers, as you said, but also your internal teams, right? They need to know that something is going on as well. And talking about internal teams, I know that you've led large projects and with global teams. So it's and I know how difficult that is. But what are your strategies? And again, let's take into account the roadmap. Being 6 to 9 month roadmap. What are your strategies to effectively manage those distributed teams? In fact, and making sure that you have your product delivered across the different regions that you have.
So for me, it's making sure, again, everybody understands the big picture. And if we can share, to your point, a roadmap or the strategy for where it is we want to go and what the themes are or the key initiatives are over the next 6, 9, 12 months, then everyone's aligned. And then it comes down to what's your role in this, or what's your team's role in this if you have a larger team. UI team, if we're focusing on usability, what are the key themes we're going to be focusing on for the next quarter, the next half a year, what the case might be? What's our moonshot that we're going to have in that time period too? What would be our ideal? How are we going to wow people if we have the time, if we have the opportunity to do it? And so on and so forth. So it's getting everyone aligned on that vision. And then when you're communicating requirements, when you're communicating more of the features, more of the tactical, what it is we're building to help get to those points, it's making sure everyone understands what, again, they're trying to deliver. And I found, especially with distributed teams, the more visual, the less wordy, the better, whether it's flowcharts, a prototype UX, or some kind of image, or some kind of just, heck, it can be very crude animation or very crude copy and paste with some hand-drawn stuff in PowerPoint. To me, that goes a lot farther than trying to write thick specs or detailed requirements in most cases. Now, of course, certain things you can't avoid it on. If you have to define an API, you got to define an API. But if you're looking at it from I need to get the user from point A to point B, this is the way the data is going to flow, and this is what I expect to have happen. The more visual you can make it, it solves language, cultural, and time-bound issues for me.
Absolutely. I'm a very, very big proponent of diagrams, sequence diagrams, business process diagrams, this type of things, basically, or mockups of a screen, for instance. Absolutely. And that's
for me, I
quite
think
important.
the big thing that I like too is if I have a good UX team or a good partner in UX, working with him or her to first, if they can understand it, they can bring it to life. It's a lot easier to help prototype it and then bring it to the engineering team to make it real.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me you've been speaking about some universal truths, at least truths according to Andrew Hosman, that you've learned over time and through experience. But let me come at this from a different direction. You have worked across different industries, insurance, risk management, analytics, IoT. Are these what we've been talking about? Are they considered universal truths, or what other best practices are vertical agnostic? And how do you? What would you consider those best practices to be, regardless of the different or including the different industries for product management and market adoption?
Wow. Okay. Let me think about the answer for this one for a second. Of course, I'm biased to my way of thinking, but looking at it from other places I've been or working with other companies in general, I think there's a lot of opportunity for communication that I think needs to go in and thinking about what the right way to communicate with people would be. The level of detail of some of the requirements or the level of interactivity may not be as strong in some cultures or some companies. And some industries have cultures that are a little bit shy to adopt new procedures or new ways of doing things. So what I do in those cases, or what I've seen companies do, is let's adapt some of these ideas to what's going to work here. And then over time, as people get used to it, they start building up the muscle memory or understanding different perspectives, either adapt more towards full adoption in certain processes or possibly even you adapt yourself. Like, hey, this is not the way I would have done it, but this is working well here. Let's continue it, run with it, and go from there. Ultimately, I don't think there's a whole lot of, I hesitate to use the word universal truth in those regards, but I think that really what everyone's trying to get at, whatever process they follow, whatever PDLC or SDLC you're looking at, the goals are the same. It's let's deliver the right product for the right persona for the right customers, understanding from market need all the way through to delivery and support, and enabling your teams to be able to deliver and support those products. That's the goals. It's culturally, how's the team structured, where are people, how's it going to work, that you have to adapt to. And those universal truths, I think at the highest level, are universal. It's the details that I think are fungible as you go through and look at different industries and companies.
That's actually a great answer. Have you followed through with doing any adjunct teaching or anything? Because you always want to be a professor. I mean, like you have accumulated a lot of knowledge across a lot of different industries, and answering that in regards to certain principles or truths or whatever you want to call it. But then being adaptable, not only adaptable in the principles themselves, but within the culture that you're dealing with, and also within yourself. I think that was a great answer to that question. But have you dipped your toe into any, and are you going to in the future maybe do some teaching?
I honestly would love to in the future. Right now, 4 kids, kind of tough to find the time to do it all. But in general, I still feel that's something I bring uniquely to the table a little bit personally as well. Is I still see myself as a teacher to a degree, or I feel like I'm a good teacher, a good collaborator for those reasons, because that's where I empathize with other people, is helping them understand. And I think that's a lot of the product manager role too. It's not just teacher, it's also storyteller, making sure everybody's aligned and everybody understands the beginning, the middle, and the end of what it is we're trying to get to.
I mean, teaching, knowing your audience, knowing yourself, telling stories, and being adaptable, that's a very personally and professionally rewarding and also very efficient way to communicate with people that you depend upon to execute. So it's a great mentality. I sat here listening to your answer as if I was a student, and you captured my attention, and that's what you're looking to do, right?
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to be. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good.
So, yeah, you talked about universal truth. I think there's another one where you can define products in general from that well-known triangle of people, process, technology.
Mm-hmm.
I like to add in the middle data, quite frankly. And the reason is because users, generate and consume data from the product. The process or the workflows within the product do generate and consume data. And of course, the technology is what enables all that data to be visible, stored, integrated, transmitted, etc. So talking about data, and I know you've emphasized on the importance of data, especially in today's world. How do you approach data collection, analysis, and usage in products?
I think that's got to be one of the key things you think about in general. Everything's transactional to a degree, or everything is about solving a certain problem. But what can you do? What kind of data are you getting to come in to make that output for the customer? And then thinking beyond that, if you're collecting enough of that data, what other questions can you answer that maybe the customer's not even thinking about right now? Everyone back when I was at Marsh in the insurance industry, everything was about benchmarking. And how do we know where our premiums are falling, or how do we know where our claims history is falling relative to other companies our size or relative to peer companies? Obviously, obfuscating and anonymizing the data so you don't know which company is which. But for a lot of that initial genesis leads to things like, well, how do we be more prescriptive? So you have benchmarking, which is more descriptive analytics. Then how do you get to be more prescriptive in the analytics? How can we give customers some best practices? What's that next level of detail that we need to look at and analyze to identify the people who are on this end of the benchmark versus the people who are on this end of the benchmark? And what separates them? What are things I can do? The top 5 things I should focus on, or the top 2 or 3 things I'm doing really well. in terms of whatever metric I'm trying to measure. And then how do you build process around that to help people improve and measure their ability to grow? What data do I need for that? How do I capture the information to help drive them towards good decision making? So I think it's pretty generalized. It's not just insurance, obviously, but it's if you look at it from IoT and data security, or if you're looking at it from retail gasoline and how you can go and sell products or do a better job of managing your inventory with just-in-time inventory and orders. Or if you're looking at it from a risk analytics standpoint, what exposures do I have that I'm not thinking about that are my blind spots? And how do I go about securing them? Or what things can I do to help try to make sure that I'm not overexposed in certain areas? All of those questions, it's the same general concept of, okay, that's the first of the 5 whys. Why is this important? What do I need to do to figure all that out? Now why? Now I've done all this, what can I do next? 5 whys may be a bad example, but same general concept. It's more the 5, what can I do next kind of questions. So,
well, what can I do next and why?
Exactly.
Why? I mean,
exactly.
You should ask why. You're right. You're right. Absolutely right.
So for me, it's continuing down that path. What else can we do? What more can we solve for? What other data do we need? Are we the right people? And this is the big one too. Are we the right people to be bringing this information?
Yeah.
Or are there partners out there or other things we can do to help?
So you mentioned descriptive and prescriptive analytics. There's one more, obviously, predictive analytics.
Yes.
What do you think about this one? This one is the tough one, I think. But
yeah, and our company, from our standpoint, is we're more on the deterministic analytics side for how we look at risk. But at other companies I've been at, we've looked at predictive analytics as well. And how can we predict based on the benchmarking or based on these large volumes of data what your overall experience might be? There's another data type I want to try to get to if I can. I'll see if I come back to it in a minute. But from prescriptive guidance, you just need a lot of data to be able to be right there. Otherwise, it's the same thing as AI right now. You're not going to get the right answers. You're going to lose credibility. But depending on the industry, depending on the product, you do need to think ahead to helping customers solve problems in advance or taking their data. What's the experience you can expect? I think if you can partner that predictive analytics with good deterministic analytics, here's what we think is going to happen, and here's why, and here's some examples that have happened that we can show you to back it up. That's really where there's a really good sweet spot. I don't think a lot of companies can do both necessarily, but if you can, that helps justify and build confidence in whatever predictive algorithms you look at. For me, the other thing of thinking about it, and this is where I was going to go a minute ago, is the other thing from a product manager. I've been talking about customer data, and I've been talking about how they consume data or how we provide analytics to our customers. For product managers, how are customers using our product? We might build what we think is the best user experience, and then we find out that the customers are not clicking where we think they're clicking. They're getting to it through other ways, or they're not using certain features. So there's also descriptive and deterministic and predictive analytics there. How do we think customers are going to use it? What do we expect to see and what's actually happening for our products to help us decide where we want to invest more in the product and where we need to improve our overall usability or experience?
That's fascinating. And looking ahead, Andrew, what are some significant trends and challenges you anticipate in the product and technology development sphere?
I mentioned AI, of course. You see stories in the news about companies letting go of large numbers of people because AI will solve those problems, and then you see several months later it didn't quite do it. So that's a challenge I see, is learning how to effectively use AI for what it's good for and what it's not now, but staying ahead of it too, because that's going to evolve over time. The tools are going to get better. And for a product manager and for a product company, how do you then roll with that and take advantage of that to be more effective for delivering for your customers? Where is that, as Olivier put it earlier, HI and AI intersection? How do you best optimize the use of both and free up your key thought leaders or your key customer-facing colleagues to be more of that HI component and more of that relationship component with your customers?
I know a lot of companies are it's easy to slash and try to, or hypothetically become more efficient than it is to grow and take advantage of market opportunities. Um, and I think that's also almost a universal action that can make a big impact, maybe on the bottom line for a lot of leaders and decision makers. Uh, I don't know how much control you have in helping guide them to a more positive, assertive, or opportunistic mindset, as opposed to a, hey, let's grab profitability through, slashing costs and making things more efficient, and then we'll grow from there. Um, do you have any, thoughts in regards to how you bridge the leadership and that type of audience with uh, leveraging AI to take advantage of opportunities?
I think that's going to be different for just about every company. Universally speaking, though, if I'm a product manager or I'm a product leader, you need to be proactive with how these tools are going to be positive and how these tools are going to be negative or hindrance for your growth, for your company, and have a good story around that, both externally to your customers as well as internally to stakeholders and executives. How can these tools help? Where is the efficiency to be gained? But where is that key HI you need to keep in-house, and how do you build around that? Because AI tools, while expensive, they can be purchased, they can grow, they can evolve. You let go of that HI, they move on to other opportunities. That's harder to replace. You're losing years of experience, you're losing insight, you're losing thought leadership, and no AI is going to replace that.
And let's
Definitely.
not forget that AI, gives results on past data, based on past data.
Exactly.
So whereas the HI component is more into the future, if you think
Yeah,
about it. I mean, we use our past experience, obviously, but when we create new products or anything new, it's with forward thinking. It's not just backward thinking.
mm-hmm.
And I think what I was talking a little while ago, that sweet spot between deterministic and predictive analytics, that's where the HI comes into a degree too.
Yeah,
I'm predicting where I think things are going to go, but I need data to back that up
that's right.
and show why I think this makes sense.
Yeah,
What's fun is that AI can help with that because it can help get you that deterministic information or do the research
for
to
sure.
help forward your theory or help maybe refute it. Because maybe I'm about to make a really bad decision and I can at least find good data to prove, you know what, Andy, you're going down the wrong direction. You should really think of it a different way.
Yeah.
At the same time, the prompt has to be the right prompt, because if the question garbage
Exactly.
in, garbage out, right? You get the wrong prompt, you will get the wrong answer. Oh,
Mm.
that's great. Let's go with this product now, and because AI told me so. So, and talking about this, it's uh, you know, you want to build successful product portfolios, right? So, what do you do to be successful as a product manager?
I personally think you always just need to remember who you're building your products for. Who are your customers and what are they needing? What are their current pain points? What are they how is their evolution going to affect your evolution? So if you're in a specific industry and you're focused and you want to stay there, it's really trying to empathize with the market, those personas and their adjacent personas, and continue to see how those might evolve over time and where your product can fit in there. If you're just thinking about it more generally as a product manager, I want to move forward in my career, where do I want to grow? I think then it's let's learn how to use these new tools that are out there and be flexible.
Sure.
Just because you did it this way at one company doesn't mean it's going to work exactly that way at another company. So take what you've learned, what the principles are, and figure out how to adapt them to where you
Absolutely,
are now in the industry you're in now.
absolutely. And then
Hey,
typically, do you tend to um, uh, you know have a product out there, for a period of time, a lifetime, a reasonable lifetime, or you're always thinking about sustainable growth for your products in the market?
I think from a SaaS perspective, it's always about evolution and growth. SaaS doesn't stand still. This isn't typically, in my experience at least, and I'm only speaking for what I've worked on. I have products that need to continue to evolve. It's evolve or die. Keep swimming or die, like a shark, essentially. You need to keep swimming to keep breathing. In our case, it's how is the industry going to evolve and how is our product going to evolve with it, versus having something that might have a shelf life or something that may be a limited use solution. Features and modules within your product may be deprecated over time. You may choose to not support things. Maybe the industry doesn't need that anymore. Good example being, of course, all the COVID risk management from years ago. Those are all deprecated now, thankfully. But at the same time, we learned a lot from things like that. How do we quickly adapt and bring new features to life based on real-world situations? So don't lose those lessons. But from a product perspective, keep evolving, keep moving.
In fact, you're just making a very, very good point, because you need to deprecate certain features in your product because it's costly.
Yes.
It's costly because it's code to maintain, to run, in fact. So
Sure.
Processing is not free. Maintaining that code is not free. The documentation, everything has a cost. So deprecating what is not needed on the market is quite important, in fact. So we never think about it this way, but that's part of evolution.
It absolutely is. And to your point, yes. I mean, how do you simplify? Keep it as simple as you can over time, too. It's going to improve your product quality, reduce your overhead cost and risk, and reduce your regression cycles and all the automation testing you need to put in place. Plus, if you need to re-platform later or need to adopt new technologies, it's a few less things you need to worry about.
Yeah.
So every time you go into that evolutionary step, you need to think about, does everything come along for the ride or not?
That's right. And you made another good point, is that if there's some code that is not used, there's always a risk of failure, risk of crash, or that code could crash the entire system. And even though it's not used, right? So you need to reduce the risk. You need to simplify your product and the usability of it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, speaking of evolution, markets evolve, companies evolve, visions evolve, people evolve, and customers evolve, and you've evolved, across industries and over time, from software development through product development through, SaaS and product strategy, and so I really appreciate all of that collective accumulated insight that you've brought to the audience today. I think it's been highly valuable because we've seen that evolve through you, and you'll continue to evolve. So your thoughts in the future and in the near term are going to be modified and improved over the thoughts you even shared today. Not to say that they weren't valuable today; they're valuable because we live in the moment right now. But I really appreciate your attendance and your insights, and thank you very much for attending.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, that's
Thank
great.
you, Andrew.
To our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Software Without Borders. If you're interested in learning more about product strategy, SaaS, or driving innovation, be sure to subscribe to the show and leave a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting platform.